the short assessment of 2018 is we had a great year, as measured by our budget and by the governor's frugal stewardship. We now have the largest reserve in the history of the state of California, just shy of $14 billion. That's just in our rainy day fund. We advanced funding of that required by voters in a past ballot measure, but we've accelerated payments into the rainy day fund. We also have the highest ready reserve that we can access, that's about $2 billion, and we've also accelerated paying down pension obligations with STRS and CalPERS and other debts owed by the state. That reduces interest payments and in the long run makes those outstanding obligations less of a hit on our annual budget. We passed a budget about $137 billion, the largest operating budget the state has ever had. That's driving an economy that is now over $2 trillion and positions us as the 5th strongest economy in the world if we were a standalone nation. That reflects continued growth since the recession, and we're 9 years now in that growth pattern. We've passed on-time balanced budgets for the past 9 years since voters gave us the ability to pass a budget with a majority vote. We still require a 2/3 vote to raise taxes, but we can pass a balanced budget with a majority vote. As a result of being able to do that on time with our majority, our bond ratings have gone up. We're among the highest bond-rated states now in the bond market in the nation. So that's all good economic news. When you look retrospectively, we've never had a growth period that's gone beyond 7 years. Past recessions, past dips, past drops, and now we're in our 9th year. So the question's not whether, it's when. And will it be a dip? Will it be a drop? So that reserve helps us cushion the blow, but it's not necessarily bulletproof. And I'll mention some of the other challenges and stresses on our budget here in a moment. But certainly better to be in this condition of good footing than where we were when I was elected in 2008. Our state, our revenues dropped $30 billion, and we had to cut every program that was important to all constituents: education, healthcare. There was not a program that was immune from those cuts. That $30 billion drop, 30% of our budget revenues, caused not through mismanagement in Sacramento, but through malfeasance and I'd say criminal conduct of some of the financial marketeers in Wall Street, none of whom went to jail. Many people lost their homes in the state of California and in my district, all part of that hedge fund hocus pocus that crashed and affected everyday Californians tremendously. So we're on recovery from that, but here's some of the tough news. We've all followed the tragedy of the fires this year, the tragedy of the fires last year, and every one of these fire events, we're told it's the worst one ever until the next one has come. And Paradise is the worst ever, with 88 fatalities, still missing family members, and close to 14,000 homes lost. So when we go back to Sacramento in January, front and center we'll be looking at PG&E's liability. Was it negligence? Was it gross negligence? There's strict liability in California. If you can show that the power line sparked a fire, then the operator of that utility is strictly liable. It means they've got to pay. The question is, can they pass it off to ratepayers, or do you cross the line and go to shareholders? Either way, the state faces a challenge, a balancing act of keeping a service provider in business, or if bankruptcy is declared, who absorbs those liabilities, and does it shift to us as taxpayers? So that's going to be a lot of the focus when we go back. The longer-term challenge, or I'd say the immediate challenge, is prevention. And the deal that we cut last year after the NorCal fires, that some headlines portrayed as a bailout for PG&E, what it really was a restructuring that allows them to go to the bond market to stretch over time some of that liability and actually insulate ratepayers from being shouldered with it all at once or through massive spikes in ratepayer bills. But the prevention piece, part of the settlement agreement, was $200 million to prevention, to tree removal, to management, forest management, and I'll talk about that a little bit more as we move forward. Sandy mentioned our big achievement this year, Senate Bill 1090. I want to acknowledge Assemblymember Cunningham, who served as a co-author. We did get bipartisan support in both houses. This, of course, was the Diablo Canyon decommissioning mitigation bill that brought $85 million to communities, particularly to at-risk school districts. We had the support of the county, the cities. The community support for this legislation was bipartisan, it was strong, and it reached even beyond San Luis Obispo County. And I want to acknowledge the leadership of the Chamber, because we got the support on this legislation from the Fresno Chamber of Commerce because of relations with this Chamber of Commerce. So many people, some of the skeptics in the legislature said, well, why should ratepayers bail out the people of San Luis Obispo County? And our counter was, well, Diablo's been generating energy for all PG&E customers, and it will continue to generate energy for about another 7 years. So we've all been beneficiaries. We can all pay a de minimis 20 cents a month on our energy bill to get the $85 million to the community that has been the community that has had to have potassium iodide in your medicine chests, emergency escape plans delivered to you every year in the form of a PG&E calendar. The risk has been here. The benefit has been shared by all PG&E customers. So we won bipartisan support in both houses, not unanimous, but we cleared every committee. We had representatives here from San Luis Obispo County at all the hearings, and then it went to the governor's desk, and we had gotten no indication. We were doing an end run on his PUC that had said they didn't have the authority on the $85 million, and they undercut the amount for keeping workers with bonus payments so they don't leave and go to some other community with a nuclear reactor. To run this safely for the next 7 years, we need to maintain skilled, highly skilled workforce. So that was the other piece of SB 1090. And the PUC reduced the amount, according to IBEW and PG&E and others, they reduced it to a level that wouldn't hold workers here. So we had it on the governor's desk. We had bipartisan support. We had strong community support. But we were kind of doing an end run on the governor's appointed PUC, and we had no crystal ball to tell us how he was leaning, what he was thinking. So I think it's fair to say we expended every ounce and iota of political influence we had. I got the leaders of both houses, our pro tem Tony Atkins and the Senate Speaker Anthony Rendon, to be supportive. We engaged the governor's staff. We asked for any guidance along the way. We met with them regularly. If you've got problems with what we've done or you need tweaks, tell us, tell us, tell us. We got no corrections. And it was on September 19th, I got a phone call from the governor's office. He signed the bill. So that's your shared victory with us. It's a huge breakthrough for this period of transition. We still aren't totally out of the woods. There's still more work to do. But this provides a cushion that allows us to adjust, to adapt, and make sure we don't have a flight of school teachers from districts that would have suffered a massive drop in their property tax revenue relied upon to educate students. You lose teachers, they lay off teachers, families leave, and it takes a hit on the whole community. So I do want to thank everyone in this room who made a trip to Sacramento, who helped us with letters of support. It's a huge achievement. And the dollar value coming to San Luis Obispo County, about $430 million. So that's one of the largest expenditures. It didn't come out of our general budget. It will be shouldered by PG&E ratepayers, as I said, about an average of 20 cents per month, and there's an exemption for people living below the federal poverty line. Related to that Diablo legislation was my earlier bill, Senate Bill 968. That required the PUC to commission a third-party investigator to assess economic impacts of the closure and to recommend mitigations for the local economy. What are steps we can take now? The benefit of PG&E's longer-term decision, unlike San Onofre that it came overnight, we will have had a total of 9 years to prepare for the closure and the transition. Now it's down to about 7. So my Senate Bill 968, the research team is now UC Berkeley, headed by Professor David Roland Holst. He's convened meetings with various stakeholders here and will continue to do that. Their deadline got pushed back about 6 months because of delays in the contracting. I actually think the delay now works to our benefit because they can calculate what Senate Bill 1090 is going to bring and factor that in to how do we use that money as part of our transition strategy.